Thank you very much. But we will keep today's session very interactive. So even though it's on silent mode, it is because we want to really hear the view being discussed today. But throughout the whole event today, we will also take your feedback, your question, and your view live. So if anyone is not familiar with Pigeonhole, let me run through a little bit. So if you open your web browser from the mobile, go to the worldwideweb.pigeonhole.at. You'll be asked to input a password. Just put in Bangkok. You will see 2 panel sessions in the list. So our moderator will be giving you the cue. You can review the question right now as well, think about it, and post the question so we can have a very meaningful discussion later on. All right? If you have any inquiry and request, please reach out to any of the Bloomberg representatives that will be around with you. Right. Without further ado, let me introduce Maggie, who is our head of ASEAN business for Bloomberg, to give you a welcome note. Maggie, please.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to the Bloomberg Buyside Forum and to this lovely venue. As Shala introduced, I'm Maggie Ng, and I head up Bloomberg's financial products business across ASEAN. I'm also very delighted to be kicking off today's event. We are also really thrilled to be able to bring the global franchise of Buyside Forums to Bangkok for the very first time. It goes without saying that the buy-side industry is a major pillar in Thailand's finance sector and continues to play a really important role in stimulating economic dynamism and innovation. AUM under management in Thailand in the first 7 months of this year saw good growth of up to 7% to 5.39 trillion baht, driven largely by broad-based gains in bond and equity funds. We have therefore designed today's agenda to specifically address the unique opportunities and challenges for Thailand's buy-side industry. And we are also really grateful for all our speakers who have taken time out to share with us their insights today, for which I'm pretty sure all of us will find very useful. Now, speaking of opportunities, Thailand's government pension fund has launched new socially responsible investing guidelines just last month, demonstrating the government's commitment to implementing socially responsible investment on a larger scale, and thereby helping Thailand gain a competitive edge. In fact, we are collaborating with GPF to bring together a socially responsible forum for global and regional asset owners at the end of October to Bangkok. Today, we'll give you kind of a teaser of that through our colleagues from the Bloomberg New Economy Finance, who will share with us socially responsible investment trends. And our panel today will also discuss the strategies and challenges of investing in this area. So we've spoken about the opportunities, right? It is also important for us to address the challenges. When we talk about challenges, standard business models will be disrupted, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that the buy-side industry has to adapt as a result of technology. From where we sit, Bloomberg has a broad view of the dynamics shaping the global buy-side industry, and we can really help you to address these issues as well as changes, and help you to leverage technology to gain operational efficiency, and most importantly, to meet regulatory demands. Technology is not just revolutionizing operating models, it is also redefining job roles in the buy-side industry. We thought that it would be interesting to put together a panel today of what we call next-gen fund managers to further explore how skill sets are evolving and also how the role of a fund manager is being redefined. For example, the need to understand data intimately and how to leverage it to better create products and new experiences is essential. So before I hand the stage over, let me take this time to thank all of you for your support of Bloomberg. We appreciate your business and we look forward to partnering with you for many years to come. It is also my honor to invite our keynote address speaker today, Kun Parali Sukontaman, the Assistant Secretary General of the SEC. We are grateful that Kun Parali could find time in her busy schedule to be with us today. So without further ado, Kun Parali, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Buyside, Thailand. And myself also, welcome myself. I'm very honored to be part of this insightful event and certain that this discussion we are about to hear today will truly benefit us, big or small, who have played our parts in the financial industry. In today's world, when it comes to the financial services, investors are now demanding for more and more uses of technology. Adoption is found in different areas, from providing plain investment advice to clients, to fully automated portfolio management. At the same time, there is an increasing number of companies using technology in their businesses. Technology has been adopted to maximize companies' revenue and reduce costs, which would result in the business increases in efficiency. Big data technology is now playing an important role as to collecting and analyzing the flow of information, enabling businesses to customize their products and services to better serve individual client needs. Apart from the technology, sustainable investment is another mega trend that has been increasingly adopted by a large number of asset managers. Sustainable investment is vital as many believe that when applied properly, it could enhance investment return in the long run and help asset owners or asset managers outperform the market. This forum intends to discuss key trends on the buy side in the age of disruptive technology, together with how to navigate through an increasing demand for sustainable investment. Please let me take a moment to elaborate what trend we at the SEC have seen so far in the fund management industry. An increasing number of companies have used artificial intelligence and algorithm in the business. For example, robo-advisor, automated portfolio management, and machine learning technology. The reason behind the technology disruption on the buy side is because business providers realize that traditional business models may be disappearing in light of the fast-changing technology and growing competition. Technology has a cutting-edge solution for customers. Apart from faster execution of transactions and more efficiency in resource allocation, technology allows service providers to gain access to broader customer base and hence better data mining for internal use. Another key trend is to create central infrastructure for capital market by using distributed ledger technology, DLT. DLT is a technology that can distribute the information to parties within its network after a transaction is created. With the use of DLT, information will be more secured, and business can be shortened the amount of time used in administrative function. Earlier this month, the SEC Thailand launched the project to propose the use of DLT as digital infrastructure of capital market. We aim to achieve the goal of cost reduction and increase efficiency in the capital market. The project itself has been supported by both public and private agencies, Stock Exchange of Thailand, the Association of Thai Securities Companies, the Association of Investment Management Companies, and the Thai Bond Market Association. As investors nowadays are becoming more technology savvy, an increasing number of service providers are adapting technologies in their products and services. This then provides more alternatives to customers with less cost. Robo-Advisor is the digital platform that provides automated financial advising services, ranging from little to no human touch. It collects customer information to analyze and offer advice to customers. We noticed that there is an increasing number of service providers who are adopting robo-advisory as part of their services. Again, operational effectiveness and cost savings. When looking into the fund management industry, it is forecasted that technology can be used from up to down streams, from account opening to payment of fund accounts. Not to mention advanced automated fund management programs that can detect market signals, identify certain patterns or market behaviors, analyze the products, and make investment decisions. The automated system can constantly scan the market to identify investment opportunities and execute the transaction at the right timing. When it comes to portfolio management, I can foresee the trend of robots working side by side with, or perhaps replacing some of the fund managers. In Thailand, there are a number of asset management companies using artificial intelligence or AI. AI is capable of selecting products that match with the fund investment policy, and it could be used as a tool to help increase efficiency as to work process and investment decision making. Once investors' money is placed in the fund, AI is used to monitor and analyze clients' investment patterns in order to help optimizing risk, return, and cost of the customers. Another aspect that comes with technology is cyber risk. The SEC deems that cyber risks are very important because apart from the damage to the organization, the damage might go on and affect the financial system as a whole. As a result, top management need to be aware of such risks and provide preventive measures as well as recovery plan. Ladies and gentlemen, on the other side that the SEC see coming into 3 years ahead is sustainable investment. High net worth or institutional investors will be more choosy. Invest in environmental, social, and governance (ESG) products. In addition, the ESG criteria are increasingly taken into consideration in determining long-term value of a company for the benefit of capital market sustainability. Several studies, including a study by Morgan Stanley, which evaluated more than 10,000 funds and managed accounts, shows that investing in sustainability has usually met and often exceeded the performance of comparable traditional investments. Also, from the survey, 84% of the asset owners are at least actively considering integrating sustainable investment criteria into their investment process. On the same token, business respect human rights has become an important performance indicator, while the positive response of civil society toward corporate responsibility for human rights protection has increased markedly. In reality, environmental and social issues could be intertwined with human rights. For example, pollution affects public rights to good health, while technological inaccessibility could affect the public right to social security, proper labor use, fair and transparent disclosure. SEC Thailand has been using a mixed use of tools, which include self-discipline, market force, and regulations to building the sustainable capital market in Thailand. In this regard, institutional investors are considered to be an important element in our market force. In 2017, 11 asset management companies have issued the Thai CG Fund. The theme of Thai CG Fund is investing in Thai listed companies that emphasize on ESG. Importantly, 14% of the management fee from the fund has been donated to the organization that committed to anti-corruption policy. Perceiving the industry movement, SEC Thailand has put the effort to join the global trend by issuing the Investment Governance Code, or I-Code. The I-Code contains investment governance principles and guidance reflecting current international standards and best practice for responsible and effective stewardship over investments by institutional investors. Implementation of the I-Code by institutional investors will enhance confidence by domestic and global market clients and trust that investment decisions and management are done in their best interests. Fortunately, there are now the total of 26 asset management companies adopting the I-Code. In August 14, 2019, the government pension fund, together with the institutional investors, have initiated the negative list guideline for screening out the positively engaging with the listed company that are not complying with the relevant laws or regulations or having serious ESG incident. Currently, there are 32 institutional investors that have declared to follow the guideline. 2 of those are the government pension fund and the social security fund. 22 are asset management companies. 8 are insurance companies. This movement is the evidence that the asset owners and asset managers in Thailand have realized that sustainable investing is crucial for the long-term development of our capital market. And last but not least, in May this year, the SEC signed an MOU with the National Human Rights Commission of Thailand, or NHRC, to support implementation of human rights principles in business practices of listed companies and all regulated entities. In closing, I would like to reiterate again that technology disruption and sustainable investment are two key trends that now are inevitably impacting our industry. As a regulator, we need to find the ways to cope with those trends to ensure that everyone in the capital market will benefit and look at them as opportunities. The important thing here is to go along and strike the right regulatory balance. For technology disruption, we need to ensure that our regulations in place have a balance between facilitating new businesses model, open for new ideas, while maintaining investors' protection. For sustainable investment, regulation is only one regulatory tool. We need powerful market force in the industry, from asset managers, asset owners, to put issuers to have self-discipline. No more focus on regulation. In implementing ESG in practice, this will show that sustainable capital market could not be achieved without the collaboration of all relevant participants in the market. Thank you very much for participating in such a very valuable seminar today. I wish you all a very fruitful conference. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Miho Kurosaki, the head of Japan and Korea research from Bloomberg NEF. Thank you, Khun Palali, for your excellent keynote speech. Now we have you set the scene for all of us in this Thailand Buyside Forum. Today, I'd like to talk about sustainable investment. Before getting into that, I would like to explain who we are. So Bloomberg NEF is a research division within Bloomberg where we focus on 5 major key sectors: clean energy, advanced transport, commodities, digital industry, and advanced materials. Across the 5 major sectors, sustainability is our key research topic. Today, we will focus on sustainable investment in this session. I would like to talk about 4 main topics on sustainable investment: market size, disclosure, opportunity, and finance. Sustainable investment market has been growing since the launch of PRI, Principles for Responsible Investment, in 2006. The number of signatories has been increasing, including the Pension Fund of Thailand, as Khun Palali mentioned. In terms of performance, this is just an example that ESG indices has been performing better than the benchmark globally and emerging markets too. In terms of investment strategies taken for ESG investment, so far, negative screening has been the most popular option, followed by the ESG integration. So, in order to make ESG investments, you need ESG data. On Bloomberg, we have ESG data for more than 11,000 companies globally. Using that data, I did a bit of analysis on Thailand. So Thailand ESG disclosure has been getting better and better across all E, S, and G, environmental, social, and corporate governance, and the overall ESG disclosure score. When you compare it against global average, there's a little room to grow and improve an environmental disclosure. Why do we need ESG disclosure? It's because of lack of transparency means high risks. So you need to disclose data, otherwise you will have an exposure to high risks in terms of ESG. The level of disclosure as of now is not satisfying investor needs, according to the research here. So some of the criteria here, highlighted in purple, is somewhat you can improve when you integrate the newer forward-looking framework called TCFD. So what is here? So how risks and opportunities are identified and quantified in financial terms. So we all understand what is climate risk or what is social risks, but how do you quantify it is a big question for investors. The second one is relevance and implications of sustainability risks. Again, the same question, same problems here. So TCFD, it's a task force for climate-related financial disclosures, was launched in 2015 as per the request from Financial Stability Board as part of the G20 Financial Ministry meeting in Paris. TCFD is a forward-looking framework where investors of financial companies and companies are encouraged to review and then assess risks and opportunities in regards to climate change in financial terms, and are encouraged also to disclose those risks and opportunities in financial reporting. It's a slightly different framework compared to other frameworks, such as Green Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, SASB, PRI, and all others. It is to help investors to identify risks and opportunities for portfolio level, or also for the company level too. Therefore, the number of companies signing up to supporting TCFD has been increasing. And so far, the latest stats already reached to over 800 companies globally. In terms of climate risks in Thailand ranked 10th in climate risk survey in 2017. Not only that, you have a lot of supplier companies based in Thailand who are working for global companies. And some of these global companies are mandating all the suppliers to procure all of their electricity from renewable energy sources. It's called RE100, Renewable Energy 100. Also, Renewable Energy 100 companies has been growing so far and reached almost 200 companies globally. When we quantify the volume of renewable energy needed to meet these companies' goals and compare it against how much already secured, there's a big gap between that. Here's an opportunity to invest and finance renewable energy projects globally. And then I mentioned that this is just a company sign up to RE100, but some of them are pressuring their suppliers to comply the same. Otherwise, you lose businesses with these companies. The good news is that the cost of renewable energy is falling, has been falling, will fall further. So it's a good momentum here. In terms of finance, sustainable finance is in growing. So far, green bond has dominated the market. 66% of the sustainable finance is dominated by green bond. And most recently, the red one highlighted here, called sustainable linked loan, has been increasing as well. Together with these principles, green bond principles, social bond principles, the most recent one is the sustainability linked loan principles. Within green bonds, we have seen a growing trend in corporate green bond. When you look at green bonds by industry, it's an interesting trend here. In the first half of this year, there are a number of different industries are issuing green bonds. For example, materials companies issuing bond for bioplastics. For example, lithium-ion battery companies issuing bonds to stabilize renewable energy generation on the grid. However, there's also a new wave coming into sustainable finance market. The first wave was green bonds. So green projects, renewable energy projects issued by green companies. The second wave was clean transport, clean infrastructure. The third wave, the most recent wave, was behavior-based sustainable linked loans. These loans are provided to any companies that wants to improve their environmental or social performance. And the volume has been increasing so far. The reason why it's increasing is because, yes, it's a good publicity and it's a good investor relations, but more importantly, as climate change is materialized, there's a credit risks associated with that. So banks are trying to mitigate these risks by providing loans. And then also, banks are getting proprietary ESG information through the loans. That's their competitive advantage by providing these loans. In summary, so the sustainable investment market has been increasing and disclosure has been getting better and better. However, as climate change has materialized and is going to be materialized in many parts of the world, we need to think about in a different framework in terms of ESG disclosure. In terms of sustainable finance, yes, green bond has been growing so far, but there is other methods that we can think about sustainable finance. Thank you very much for listening.
Right. Very good afternoon to one and all, and welcome to the inaugural Buyside Forum in Bangkok. It's our absolute pleasure to have all of you in the audience today. And I'd like to kickstart the first panel of the day, which is on ESG. And with us, we have Mr. Christopher Chen, Senior Investment Director with American Century Investment, a US fund that is basically managing 170 billion in AUM. And then we have Miro, who introduced herself earlier. She's the head of Japan and Korea research with Bloomberg NEF. All right, so to start today's panel off, I thought let's get a pretty provocative thought to get it going. Just imagine tomorrow you turn your taps on, there's no water. Bangkok runs out of water, right? Do we know what's the plan the city has? Do we know how we're going to get through the day? Now, this is not a very distant reality. If we think about, say, Cape Town in 2018, which had a massive water crisis, Chennai in 2019, which is a major city in India that basically almost completely ran out of water. And on the flip side, if we think back to 2011, we had these massive floods in Bangkok. So climate change is real. And Chris, as a ESG asset manager, my first question to you is really, in the region, in Asia, firstly, are companies pricing in climate risk? And secondly, asset managers like yourself, how do you account for climate risk in your investment process?
Thank you. I think that is a very tough question. But first of all, if we run out of water, I would get very far away from myself. That wouldn't be very pleasant. But all joking aside, I think that is pricing climate risks are very, very difficult to do because these are very big macro things. And if we look at, in general, climate disclosures, companies have done a much better job disclosing carbon risks. But companies have done a much poorer job disclosing water usage or water stress. So that's an area where we expect as ESG investing becomes more and more popular, this is an area of disclosure that we expect companies to do better in. So for us as investors, we focus a bit less perhaps on exactly quantifying how much are those climate risks in terms of dollar terms. Instead, what we like to do is to really look at companies to see whether they have sort of best-in-class processes. For example, if insurance companies, do they lend to companies with high coal usage, or do they generate a lot of electricity from coal, et cetera? So we do look at these things. And for companies with less than sort of ideal disclosures or less than ideal policies, then we would really work on engaging them.
That's an interesting point. We'll come on the disclosure and engagement piece as we go along. Now, when we started and we talked, and I said, Bangkok runs out of water tomorrow, I saw a few skeptical faces around the room. And let me show you something that perhaps why we should take this a bit more seriously than we typically tend to. So this chart basically shows you CO2 levels recorded by NASA year after year. And since the 60s, you can see this chart just goes exponentially one way. So this is basically carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas, is basically just increasing year after year. Now, this is surface temperature globally, right? From 1951 to 1980. And if we look at this, basically 18 out of the 19 warmest years have occurred since 2001. So we're pretty much living in one of the warmest decades in potentially not recorded human history, but at least when we started recording data. So this is real, and it's going to hit us. And Miho, as part of your work with BNEF, you meet policymakers, asset owners, asset managers, corporations across the investment spectrum pretty much. What is keeping some of these people up at night when it comes to climate risk, pricing this risk, or even shaping policy around it?
It's an interesting question. Thank you. Yes, I think climate change and risk associated with that is pretty much the big issue for players across the industry, and regardless of maybe energy companies or policymakers or asset owners or managers. So 2 weeks ago, we held a roundtable on ESG with insurance companies. And there are major insurance companies in the room to discuss about the ESG. one of the questions came to me was, so tell us how to measure climate risks. Tell us how to implement TCFD at portfolio level. So they totally understand what this means in terms of climate risks, but when it comes to managing those risks, it's a big question. Also, we have seen quite an interesting change in energy companies, not just Japan, but also across the APAC region, that they are seriously thinking about how to clean their operational footprint. So as Chris, you also mentioned that you are sort of cautious about companies who are sort of getting power from coal power generation. Those companies are generating power from coal sources, and they are seriously thinking to invest or increase their footprint into more cleaner generation. In terms of policymakers, it's a big question mark for them, especially energy sort of ministries, because, as you know, all APAC regions are heavily sort of natural resource-rich countries. And why don't they just use those resources instead of developing renewable energy? However, according to our research, those renewable energy costs are declining so faster at the pace, like your iPhone, everyone started using iPhones or smartphones. The speed of this renewable cost declining is really fast. So I think policymakers now shifting, same as Thailand, trying to shift towards more clean energy.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that it's basically efficient cost that's going to drive policy rather than the reverse.
I guess so, yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, much is talked about ESG investing. It has become the fancy thing that every fund house wants to have on their shelf, just to make sure that, if someone asks you, do you have an ESG product? Yes, we do have one. However, let's look at the numbers and, of the industry as a whole. Now, looking at these 5 regions, so really Europe, the States, Japan, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, you can see that there is a decent growth in assets under management by ESG funds. So it's grown some 34% in the last 2 years, between 2016 and 2018. And Japan on its own has had some 56% growth in AUM managed. And I think this question probably is really directed to Miho, which is this growth coming primarily by GPIF having signed the UNPRI and hence it's asset owner driven, or are there other factors at play in the market?
Thank you. I would say yes, but also other factors too. So GPIF, Government Pension Fund of Japan, signed up to PRI in 2015, or I think 2015. Ever since then, they are clear about how they're going to manage ESG investment. They don't do any negative screening. They don't divest any companies. So that's their strategy. So they are rather passive investors, and they try to engage with companies. So that's their strategy. But not only that, before they sign up to PRI, there are other asset managers already active quite actively on ESG because they have businesses with other global investors too.
Chris, I mean, this is something which I think, as Miho mentioned, which is quite interesting, that is the engagement model. We talk about impact investing and things like that. Now, if we look at this chart, we can really see that it goes across the spectrum. Now, we start on the right with negative screening, which tends to be the most basic entry level to some extent of ESG investing. And then if you go across, to some extent, the complexity as well increases. Now, as an investor in public markets, in equities and debt, how do you do something like your impact investing? Or to some extent, engagement is a little less complicated, but what about impact?
I think ESG is very wide definition. ESG means different things to different people. To certain people, it means excluding tobacco. To other people, it means doing good while investing. So impact is that latter definition to us. And so when we think about impact investing, we think about how do we do good while doing well as an investor, right? So I think you asked about GPIF earlier in Japan, and I think also what we're seeing is that newer generation, the millennials, having a massive impact on the impact investing, because the newer generation, they care about what's happening in the society. They care about what's happening in the world. So when we think about impact, interestingly, late last year, we launched, American Century launched a fund with our partner in Nomura in Japan. October last year, it took us about 3 months to raise $1.5 billion US in the fund. And that fund is a healthcare impact fund, where what it does is it impacts or it invests in companies that either lowers costs for healthcare, increases access to healthcare, or has a more efficient way of doing research. And also there's one more that I'm blanking out on that I'm sure is very, very important. So anyways, and having this direct innovative way of tackling these 4 things that are very important in healthcare, this message resonated really well with our Japanese investors. And these are not the professional investors. These are your mom and pops who walked into a bank to buy that fund. So this is a very important trend. Now, in terms of impact, I can give you so many different stock stories about impact that is very interesting. Maybe one that I can talk about in healthcare is there's a company called Illumina in the US whereby it innovates in ways of analyzing genes. In fact, 90% of the world's genetic data is run out of its technology. 90%, right? So it used to cost tens of millions of dollars to analyze one gene not so long ago, less than 20 years ago. Now it takes $1,000 and 1 week to do so, right? My mother-in-law just got a biopsy and we're waiting for some gene tests on something. And most likely it is happening because of technology by this company. So that is impact. So another example is perhaps an India company called Bharat Financial Inclusion. What they do is they do micro-lending. They go into villages. They teach women in villages. And my wife will tell you that it's because women are more responsible. But it's not just that. It's because, they usually stay at home, and by giving very small loans, $50 US dollars to these women, they start their businesses. It improves on gender equality, and that is impact as well. And it's also empowering them with financial needs. So these are some of the stock examples whereby, as an active investor, you can actually have a positive impact by directing your capital into companies that are doing something special, that are actually doing something special for the world. And so to us, it's very exciting as an investor to have the opportunity to do so. And I think a lot of our investors are really excited about the opportunity whereby they can direct their capital into something better.
I think you touched on an important point, which is basically the impact and the impact in society. When we look at the bulk of products offered today on ESG, they still sit under the negative screening. I'm going to take my alcohol, tobacco, gambling, fossil fuels sectors out. I tick an ESG box, everything's done. But how do we actually measure societal impact and that ESG investing actually does well for society? I think that was a very good example that you mentioned. Miho, maybe you want to talk a little more about the engagement model that maybe you have from your work within BNF with companies.
Within BNF, we don't do research on engagement, but from my experience, so before joining BNF, I launched the ESG product in Bloomberg. So what you see on Bloomberg Terminal is something I worked on back in 2009. Through that process, I interviewed quite a lot of Buyside companies in Japan, also in APAC regions, and see what's useful and what they're thinking around ESG. engagement comes up quite a lot in the conversation. It's because maybe similar to what GPIF is trying to do, it's not divesting, but also changing their behavior, changing the sort of transitioning their performance towards more sustainable way. And I think there are two ways to engagement. So one of the most popular one back in those days are to outsource all of their engagement activities to specialized companies. So for example, if you want to make an investment or impact on corporate governance, there are a number of different corporate governance companies specializing, engaging companies on their management, on their business performance issues. But quite recently, a lot of companies are more towards in-housing or asking asset managers to do that role. So rather than pension fund doing their own engagement activities, they are asking asset managers to engage with companies. However, not just randomly engaging with companies. They have a set of engagement principles in paper that are circulated within the asset managers, and they need to comply each metrics on engagement, and they need to report back to asset managers. So that's the typical way of doing engagement, and I think it's working so far. But I must say that I also agree with you, Chris, that when you say ESG, it has so many different meanings, and some people want to see the return, overnight. But it's not like that. And ESG is targeted to long-term investors. ESG return, you can't see it overnight. So it's a long-term process, and you won't see the results overnight.
Interesting. I mean, in 2018, the Shell CEO, Ben van Bruden, was quoted on an FT article titled, "Oil Producers Face Their Life or Death Question." In that article, he was quoted saying that Shell is no longer an energy company, but an energy transition company. So if that's how, is this how basically your global oil producers now start labeling themselves so that they become appealing to sort of your ESG investors? Or is there more to what the global oil majors are basically doing to transition or actually transition?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So in Bloomberg NEF, we analyze all major oil companies globally, how their strategies are changing to adapt this climate change. And Shell is a really good example that they bought quite a number of companies in the past 2 years. So they bought EV charging companies, they bought energy storage providers, Sonnen. They bought a VPP provider called LimeJump. So all of that is to enhance their portfolio, not just in oil or gas. They used to sell oil to gas. Not just oil and gas, but also the other newer areas. So they also launched a new energy, Shell New Energy, within Shell. This is not just happening for Shell, but also other oil majors have been taking the similar path. However, it doesn't really mean that they are doing completely great thing on ESG. So I'm guessing different ESG providers or different ESG research providers seeing this momentum differently. However, when you look at their carbon footprint, I'm sure it's getting cleaner and cleaner. So it's a really great thing. And most of the investment companies or ESG providers are making ESG ratings based on the industry. So you're not comparing Shell to M&S or Shell to something completely different. You're comparing Shell within other oil majors.
Got it. I think at this point, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to take your mobile phones out, because we will move to the first of 3 polling questions. So if you're on Pigeonhole, your first question is, in the past year, which of the following has been the most significant in terms of your firm's ESG investment process? So if you haven't answered, you may want to put your answers in. So we have a tie there. Developed, reviewed ESG process, developed internal ESG scoring model. Interesting. So we have around 31% of the room that keeps moving. All right, so interesting. So we have around 33% or a third of the room basically that's developed or reviewed ESG investment process in the last year. Now, if we move to the next question, which is a very simple yes or no question. The next question is, do you believe ESG integrated portfolios are likely to perform better or as well as non-ESG integrated portfolios?
Does that surprise you?
It's in line with what we see in other parts of ASEAN.
It is very interesting. This is very interesting because at the end of the day, we believe that if you have an investment product or investment capability that does not add alpha, it's going to die away. It's going to be a fad. So ESG is very important. It cannot be a fad. So it is very important for us as investment managers to make sure that they do outperform. Now the question is, when you look at the indices, depending on where you start and stop, the answer is sometimes they're better, sometimes they're not. So to us, it's very, very important, because ESG is important, that we do this research properly. So we believe integrating is very important, to integrate the ESG research into the fundamental research. So ESG cannot be marketing. ESG cannot be risk management. ESG has to be part of the process where your investors have total buy-in. And to us, we don't know if it adds alpha right now, but then what we do know is that it helps us look at some of the risks better, and I think it makes us better investors. But I really hope that is true, otherwise ESG is going to die.
Thank you, Chris. Now let's move to the last and final question on the poll, which is, what are your biggest hurdles for your firm implementing SRI ESG strategies? And the results are, again, quite consistent with what we see across the region, which is 30-odd% of the room basically saying reliable data is one of the biggest challenges in implementing ESG strategies. Now, Chris, you were quick to comment on the second question with the yes or no in terms of does it help portfolios? You guys have been using an ESG framework to your investing for quite a bit. How have you tackled the challenge of data, especially in a region like Asia where reporting is not at its best, there is no real regulations around reporting this data? How have you overcome this challenge as an investor?
That is a great question, and to me, that is the number one concern as well. I think to tackle the data, I think in time we will get better disclosures. But in the meantime, what is really important is that the ESG analyst or the ESG function really works together with the fundamental analyst. I'll give you a good example. We invested in a company in Taiwan called Taiwan Cement, and then we try to look for disclosure, because without disclosure we cannot rank it favorably. And then we look at MSCI, there's no disclosure. And so then we went to the analyst, and then the analyst did some work. Wait a minute, there is some disclosure in Chinese. Then I think this is one sort of small example how, because the fundamental analyst does have a sort of higher touch with the company, whereby they can engage with the company, even if it's not proper disclosure, that they can get some ideas from questioning, engaging with the company. So when during this time when the data is not there, it's really important that you have buy-in from the fundamental analyst to get that data if it's out there.
Interesting. Now, that's basically effectively the analyst trying to source this data out now from the companies. Now, Miho, when you built the ESG product, especially within Asia, I'm sure you faced some hurdles from these companies. Maybe you can highlight some of them for us.
Yes, of course. So I think that's a really great point that we definitely focus on the language. That's the first thing I actually did when I first became sort of product manager for ESG in APAC. We need to have at least Chinese, definitely, Japanese and Korean. So that's the first thing I did. The second thing we decided to do is to get the data from public source information, because there is a question mark on the transparency as well. But basically Buyside companies are not comfortable using proprietary ESG data. So for example, some of the ESG providers send the surveys to companies to fill in, and based on that data, they create the ESG ratings. We could have done that, and we have done actually in the past at Bloomberg. We sent a survey, asked the companies to fill in, but it was not popular. So we decided to just stick with public source information, and it has been quite successful so far. The third problem I would mention is actually the coverage of data. So I would like to ask Chris later that, what do you think about the partial information? So environmental data is quite tricky because a lot of investors wanted to not just use ESG data as is. So let's say carbon emissions from Shell. Maybe they report half of their operations. They can use that data to track and compare it against previous years. But what happens if you change the scope of this data to, the following year, expanding coverage from 50% to 70%? Can you compare this year's data against previous year's data? The other issue is that a lot of investors has been using ratio. So carbon emissions over to revenue, carbon emissions over profits. You're not comparing apples to apples. So what we decided to do in Bloomberg is to capture the data that covers more than 80% of the company's operations. So back in those days, we called companies how your coverages are and what are the operations you have globally. So that's the assurance we gave on Bloomberg users.
Interesting. Now, Chris, you mentioned about this, analysts working hand in hand with the ESG desk. Analysts to basically acquire and make a lot of these calls. However, to quote a global research that was conducted by CFA Institute and the UNPRI, it was found that in APAC, only 18% of equity analysts and 14% of credit analysts often or always included ESG issues in their analysis. A further 14% of equity analysts and 10% of credit analysts often or always adjust their models for ESG issues. Now, clearly the room believes that ESG portfolios are going to outperform. The gap is in the data. However, why is this not being reflected in the modeling and the valuations of companies? Where is the gap?
To be very honest, I'm surprised it is that low. But I think one of the resistance is in the market, you have analysts who have been doing their thing, and now all of a sudden there's a new kid on the block telling them they should do something else. It should never be this way. It should never be this way. But unfortunately, when a lot of firms pushed by the asset owners trying to get ESG quickly, it has become that way for some firms. So to us, which is really important is you need buy-in all the way from your CIO to your investment analyst, that ESG is not there as a marketing thing, it's there to help them make better decisions. So it needs to be fully integrated. ESG has to have the ESG risks And the analysis of that risk has to be on something financially material. It's not just there to tick a box because nobody wants to work on something just to tick a box on marketing. So it is there to help the investment analyst. So I would say that as time goes on, as you have this newer breed of analysts who are sort of brought up thinking about a lot of these issues, and as companies evolve and wrap their ESG into the fundamental research process, I think that number should go up. I hope it does go up.
So eventually we should see this become more mainstream. Okay. Since 2008, the financial industry, pretty much all of us in this room, there is a lot of negative light around what we do and all of that. However, us in the room today, the buy-side industry in Thailand, you are effectively controlling capital that through your investment decisions you allocate to companies, and essentially you can make societal impact with that capital that you allocate. Now, to both of you, given where we are today, if we want to look back 10, 20 years from now, at the end of our careers, and pat ourselves on the back that we've done a pretty good job, not left the world a worse place than where we started off, in 10 seconds, if you had to tell me what's your vision on where you'd like to see this industry go, what would that be? Chris?
In 10 seconds, that would be, in 10 years' time, I'd really like to see the capital that we have control over to do good in the world. And in 10 years' time, I'd like to see this same amount of hair on my head.
It's a nice one. Miho?
I have 2 kids. Both of my sons have no idea about climate change. And some of my friends around me also have no clue why every year we have a record temperature in every summer. So I would like to see the world, people understand how to mitigate climate change.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we'll end today's panel. Thank you very much, and I hope that was fruitful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Buyside company research analysts are faced with managing increasing amounts of complex data to evaluate investment strategies and better understand return potential. Manipulating large data sets and making sense of the relationships is a time-consuming and challenging process, requiring downloading data into large Excel spreadsheets, cleaning it and stitching it together, and then often moving to more sophisticated tools for further analysis. Firms that seek to deal with this increased complexity are now required to add people to build and manage their own scoring models, just to keep up. What if there were a single integrated platform that could help you access and manage multiple complex datasets, analyze the data with sophisticated modeling, and visualize and share the analysis? Introducing bQuant, Bloomberg's quantitative analytics platform on the Bloomberg terminal. bQuant is an interactive development tool that enables you to build, test, and share research with faster time to market. The bQuant environment is built on open source tools like Python and Jupyter Notebooks and is fully integrated with the Bloomberg terminal. By coding using the Python library for Bloomberg's new query language, BQL, users can leverage the rich universe of Bloomberg data to evaluate factors using our analytics and infrastructure, and ultimately create interactive visualizations that can be shared with other Bloomberg users to make better investment decisions. BQL allows you to retrieve curated data on the Bloomberg terminal. The data is normalized, aligned, and linked across datasets. Explore relationships between different datasets with ease, including point-in-time reported and estimated company financials. BQL simplifies the calculation process by enabling users to screen and aggregate using Bloomberg's infrastructure without having to download and manipulate all the data on your desktop. For example, a user can define the universe, then filter it to find the most liquid stocks in the Russell 3000 index, and then get the average % change in earnings estimates by sector for those members. Bloomberg provides sophisticated libraries for activities such as factor backtesting and factor scoring. pre-built models using these libraries can be customized, or you can build your own analyses using our underlying engines and open source tools. Leverage our charting libraries to visualize data and understand backtest results. With bQuant, you can share your work with quant colleagues and also publish interactive results to your investment peers. The published interactive models are delivered as an app via Launchpad. With bQuant, take your investment analysis to the next level, from normalizing and analyzing the data to visualizing and disseminating the analysis in one integrated solution.
Well, next generation fund managers. Who are these next generation fund managers and what really makes them next gen? Is it their age? Whether they are millennials or they are Gen Zs or they just have fewer gray hair? Is that what makes them next gen? I actually asked Chalat and he said, well, Diksha, we are entering into a completely new paradigm for capital markets. And the fund managers in that new paradigm are the next-gen fund managers. That actually made me even more confused, like, new paradigm, huh? So what does a new paradigm mean? It means that the whole underlying economic factors that drive an industry are actually changing. And what kickstarts this new paradigm, right? The first thought that came to my mind actually was what Uber did with commuting, right? What Amazon did with retailing, what Airbnb has done with the hotel business. And I'm a financials analyst, so covering banks all these years, I can clearly see how virtual banking is that disruption that's happening in the banking industry, right? And that is completely changing how we look and do banking. So what is the new paradigm for capital markets, for investing? What has really changed? Like, are we going to completely change the way we invest? Are we going to completely change the way companies raise money? Are we going to change the way we analyze, value, assess companies and investments? So actually, I don't have the answers, honestly, and I'm still researching, and which is why I thought this is a perfect time to actually have the experts from within your community, from within our community, to have that conversation. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Diksha, and I am a financials analyst with Bloomberg Intelligence. We are an in-house independent research team within Bloomberg. Please join me to welcome Khun Win. He's the CIO of Principal Asset Management, and a lot of you would know him for his 17 years over experience in the industry. But what a lot of you would not know is that he teaches financials courses over the weekends. Please also welcome Khun Nataria, Senior Investment Manager at Beacon Venture Capital. We'll be drawing on her experience on fintech and blockchain investments today. And also good to know that she, in fact, advises startups outside of her work. Very pleased to have Khun Jesida as well, CEO and co-founder of Phenomena. He's leading the charge on wealth tech in Thailand, and he has also served as the president of the Thai FinTech Association. Really, really glad and pleased to have you on board. Let's quickly start without much ado. May I start with you, Khun Win? How are investor demands changing, and how are expectations changing in this new paradigm, so to say?
Yeah, I suspect that I might be in the wrong panel because I'm an old gen, not the new gen fund manager. I see three things coming up at the moment. Number one is that, in my investment world, we see a lot of clients looking for using quant, AI, machine learning into fund management. So the biggest question out there is, will an old school fund manager like me lose a job one day? So I keep praying that it will happen after my retirement, not yet. Second one is on the distribution side. My clients, they demand more of the online platform to buy and sell funds. Not just buy and sell, they want the demand for advice online, the demand for customized portfolio online. So that's keeping more and more. The third one is that Thai investors, they demand more variety of product. If you ask me 17 years ago when I started my job, Thai people only invest in Thai bonds and equities. Today you can have everything. China equity, Vietnam equity, hedge funds, private equity, ESG products. And at the same time, you can buy cannabis ETF from a local brokers. So it's a wide variety that they're looking for. And so those are the three trends that I'm seeing today.
That's perfect. So that actually sets the stage for what we're going to discuss on the panel anyways. Can I actually pull in the first poll question? So we could not have all of you on stage. So we decided that this is how we are going to loop all of you and tap on your wisdom and your experiences during this panel as well. The first question, are your clients engaging with you only or mostly via digital channels? You have to vote yes or no. Time to bring out the phones. It's a tech panel, guys.
Can I cast my vote too?
Absolutely. That is a very interesting result. Wonderful. So, not yet. Not all are digital yet. Can I bring the second question as well while everyone is on their phone? So from some of the other markets that I've been looking at, this is an increasing trend, right? Clients just want to connect digitally. They don't want to fill forms. They don't want to come to offices. It's just very easy to pick up the mobile and do financial services activities. So second question, have you heard engagement from clients go up since they switched to mobile platforms? For those of you who have seen more clients, this will be a little bit more relevant as well. So the answer is a very, very strong and clear yes, right? So to that point, actually, DBS was the first Asian bank to actually quantify and measure the value of digital value creation, right? So it defines digital clients as people who have bought the product with you, one product with you at least digitally over the year, or who have done more than half of their transactions with you via online channels. And the results that they have shared are really staggering. Clients, retail clients who are more digital, they have twice as much more income generation for the bank. Their cost-to-income ratio is 20 percentage points lower, and their ROE is 9% higher than the non-digital customers. So that's, I mean, it's a very clear that there is value in that NAT, but is that what you're also seeing from a demand side perspective?
Yeah, so being a millennial myself, I guess, I think millennials are it's a very hard generation to serve, right? Because they are born technology native, they have very low tolerance to, a bureaucracy and slow, has very little patience, and they want things to be quick and work 24/7. So I think new types of assets that millennials are looking towards to buy is different from the past, and we're more prone to buying assets that are more technology native, for example, cryptocurrency. I've done some market research asking Thai people who are investing in cryptocurrency today, and I found that a majority of them are less than 35 years old. So these are the type of assets that millennials are looking to buy. And believe it or not, even though you don't believe in this type of assets, but the market cap of cryptocurrency is now half of the stock exchange of Thailand. And it took it only 10 years to get here, where Thai stock exchange has been around for 40 years already. So this asset class is actually growing, and it's growing because millennials wanted one asset like this. You can open an account instantly, you can trade it and settlement with near instant. You don't have to wait T+2 days anymore. And it generates you very high return. So all of these characteristics really resonate with millennials.
Yeah. So I think the millennials verdict is out. So Jet, we also had this conversation, right? You told me that millennials are more prone to going for crypto. Can you tell me why?
Actually, I need to declare that I'm also a millennial. Because by definition, millennial is who born from 1981. So I'm the first generation.
A gap here.
So you are not millennials, Kun Min. But we are millennials, right? Okay, right. Okay. So I'm the eldest millennial on earth. So from what we see is a similar trend that you just mentioned, that we see more and more adaptation rates of the millennial generations, which tend to be like a majority of the investor in the next 10 to 20 years, that adapting to the digital in order to, from open the account, having the advisory service digitally based. I see the trend is increasing faster and faster, and also I start to see the kind of adaptation rate happen in for Thai investor also. Similar to cryptocurrencies. Right now, I think we have around 100,000 of traders in cryptocurrencies. From what I run my business as a fintech startups, I saw a lot of demand for the digital-based wealth advisory service from opening the account. Right now, it's like more than 80% of the millennials choose to having account open digitally by paperless eKYC based. Okay. And at the same time, I also see the same trend happen to the elder people also, that age around 40 to 50 years old, have more and more adaptation rate to this type of service.
So why do you think they like robo-advisory more? Why are they adapting more to it?
Actually, I think it's about the time sharing from my personal perspective, especially Thailand. Thailand is really, Thai people is really internet addicted. I think top of the world, how it's very stunning number. It's like 8 to 9 hours a day on average on internet. It's very crazy, Thai people. And the Thai people spend on average 1 hour for the whole population on messaging apps like Line, and another more than 1 hour on Facebook and YouTube. So right now, time sharing wise, it's Thai people spend lots of time of their free time in the internet, in the virtual world. So that's igniting the conversion of the investor to use the service digitally.
Actually, that's a very interesting point. So it's not just you going and using social media, it's also the level of comfort that you develop with technology that changes behavior. And not a lot of us give that much thought to it, right? I mean, in a couple of other panels, when we asked this question, how comfortable are you trusting your money with technology? People who don't use the technology as much are more likely to be averse as compared to those who use more. So what I also gather from that conversation is that the game is actually changing then. So if everyone is, the generation's moving more towards the robo-advisory model, then essentially the competition is no longer on financial product offering, right? It's becoming more and more competition on the quality of technology or what technology you have. And I want to use that to bring us to the next section of what I wanted to discuss. How do you think technology is changing the way markets are behaving? Kunwin, can I tap you on that question? So how do you think markets are changing?
On my side, I think the most disrupting thing happening is the growth of ETF, passive funds. Because we are, as I said again, we are old school active managers. So when you have ETF coming along and they're growing very fast, they disrupt our work. You go back to June and July, we have a lot of inflow from foreigners buying Thai stocks, and they're mostly ETF. And simply because MSCI increased the weight of Thailand. And then in August, things reverse. The money flow off because, again, MSCI increased the weight of A shares, China's A shares, and reduced the weight of Thailand. When ETF money come in, they just buy any price as long as the stocks are in the index, right? So you are having a market where it's driven not by fundamentals, but by flows. At principle, we have this simple comparison of valuation. Can you believe me that today, the two most expensive markets in the world are USA and Thailand, right? Thai large cap stocks are at their most expensive level. We studied that back into about 15, 16 years history, there are about 93% chance of Thai stock to go below today's level, which means that they are very expensive. And that's driven by ETF. So my job, normally we want to find a good stock at a good price, and then we wait for someone to discover the stock. When ETF come in, it can't be discovered because they just buy stocks in the index. So the stock that I like might be overlooked by ETF flow or whatsoever. It doesn't, it's not going to be there.
I mean, this point could not have been more timely. If you guys have been following Bloomberg News, this is a very phenomenal month. We just figured that for the first time in history, passive flows, assets under passive flows have actually exceeded those under active flows. And millennial or no millennial or Gen X or Gen Y or Gen A whatsoever, these are the realities every fund manager is facing right now, right? And what does that mean? That passive funds are actually going to determine which way the markets sway, as what you just pointed out. Can I actually request you to bring out your phones again? I want to hear from the audience on this topic itself, which is about the biggest threat that you guys perceive in your current roles right now. The next question. So what is the biggest threat to the fund management industry in Thailand? You can choose more than one: passive investing, robo-advisory, or regulations. You've managed to scare the audience fairly enough.
I did a good job on that one, I think.
Passive investing is really coming out to be the bigger threat right now. And robo-advisory among the lowest. So, well, regulations need some attention too, it seems. Can I actually bring the next question as well? And while I do that, I want to ask this question to you again, Khun Win. Are public equities under threat? From companies' perspectives, it's obviously that, like with the new economy firms, there is a lot more option to raise money. Private equity, venture capital, and founders are actually really worried about going public too soon because they lose control. So are public equities under threat?
You know, I'm optimistic on that one because I believe that a healthy private market will lead to a healthy public market. Because, you know, from a startup all the way to public company is a long shot, right? If you can have a healthy private market, venture capital, etc., then you groom the startups to grow. And the startup can wait a bit longer, you know, until they are ready to be listed, right? In the old days, you find it tough to grow fast enough and be listed, right? So today, we can take a bit longer time, be groomed. So I argue that a healthy private market is good for public market.
But from an investor's perspective, do you think that gives you avenue for more investment, like more points in the company's journey?
Because investors demand something different also. So I see demand from Thai investors, not just public equity. So we are now allowed to do private equity funds, for example. So and investors have demand for that. They can take the risk. They can do a longer term investment on private equity side. So I think that's a good and healthy trend going on.
Nat, you work a lot with startups closely, and of course, we're talking about venture capital. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think now public market will have a harder time finding value from high growth technology companies, actually. And this is because the trend that we've been seeing is technology companies take a longer time to do their IPO. So before, in 1999, it took only 4 years for a company from the startup stage to IPO. But today, it takes around 13 years. So time has grown a lot, and that is because I think it's a few reasons. The first thing is that the number of IPO shares in the US has actually declined over the years by half from 1999 to today. So now you don't have that active stock market to facilitate and support these technology companies listing anymore. And second thing is that there's more regulatory disclosure requirements for companies. And at the same time, in the US, they have rolled out this act called the Jobs Act, where it allows small companies to increase the number of shareholders in their company from 500 people to now 2,000 people. So it makes it easier for small companies or startups to raise funds privately. So you get these two things together, very not so active public market, more disclosure requirements for a company that want to do IPO, and also easier access to capital for small companies. So you can see that, the value that's being captured has moved from public market to private market. And you see that if you look at back in 1999, where it was during Apple, Microsoft, Cisco, and Oracle when they were raising funds, these companies, when they did their IPO, they was worth less than $1 billion market cap each. But now, today, they're worth $2 trillion. That's 4 times Thailand's GDP. So you see that a lot of value was created after they listed, so in the public market.
Yes.
But today, a bunch of companies, all of these unicorns, unicorns meaning companies that value more than $1 billion, they are more likely to be private company.
Yes.
And that makes investors, traditional funds like PE funds, mutual funds, are more inclined to invest in private market as well. So this is the trend that I'm seeing, and I think it's important for fund managers who pursue active management strategy to start looking at pre-IPO stocks or pre-IPO companies.
So that's exactly the point that I also was always wondering. I would add, though, that the number of startups has also proliferated across the globe, right? So that also makes a difference. But definitely, the value chain has kind of shifted, and pre-IPO, there's a lot more value that you can capture here on as well. So again, coming to you, Khun Jasida, AI-based investing and robo-advisory. What I want to hear from you is this still within the helms of the quants, or do you think this has gone mainstream? Like every fund manager should be using AI and machine learning in their workflow. And at the same time, I would like to poll the audience as well. Question number 5, please. So are you using AI and machine learning in your daily workflows in investing? Please bring out your phones and vote. You can have your own view. It's fine. I know the audience is...
Interesting.
We will not dim your spirits.
So should I answer
yes,
now? Or
absolutely. Please go ahead.
So now it's not about robo-advisory, but it's about having AI or machine learning in order to make investment decisions.
Yes.
So it's the competitions between humans and machines, between data scientists and fund managers. So at the moment, the recent development I saw, for example, in Thailand, we are having some asset management companies setting up the ML desk already. I heard from my friend that one of the large asset management company have a team of around 10 data scientists and start launching ML-based funds. That means we have a machine learning guy and launching the mutual funds without traditional fund managers.
Can you also share some examples on how people can use AI and machine learning within the process?
Actually, the capability of AI, or normally it's a machine learning, not AI yet. There are 3 layers: machine learning and deep learning, like a neural network model, and AI. Mainly for investment decision is still only machine learning and deep learning, mostly. Actually, it's similar for me. It's similar to regressions. I study economics, and the long times before, economics models, mainly econometrics, regressions, is a key tool for forecasting everything from economic data, market information, and turn out to be the prediction of the securities price. The ML, how it works, it's similar, but what ML can capture is the non-linear relationships. It will be like X factors, like numbers of economics and market information as an X factor from X1 to X100, similar to regressions. And we got ML model, like recurrent neural networking or binomial tree model as a model similar to regression model. And then we need infrastructure, a server, mainly big tree, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, or AWS from Amazon to run the model. It's very expensive, actually. That's why these three companies are very huge, got very huge market caps. So, and it will turn out to be the decisions of the ML. Okay. Anyway, what happened right now, I saw in global space, like Goldman or BlackRock, they're hiring hundreds of data scientists into the team. But the result is only 30 to 40 basis point alpha. That's what they got right now. That means today, the result is ML still cannot beat traditional fund managers. And it's still unproven. But ML already proved that they can play chess better than human and can play ROV, the e-sport better than human. Yes. But on fund manager space, still unbeaten yet. Okay. So there might be competition
my job. Okay.
Soon next year that could win and machine manage fund against each other.
No. I can sense the tension between tech and fund managers already. Right. The heat is turning on. So very interesting points. I mean, I'm not sure actually, do we provide services around ML-based investing? I think Bloomberg does something around that as well.
Bloomberg can conduct like competitions. It will be very...
I think we should contact the sales folks for that. But what I really find very interesting from this is that it is basically the processing power for machines to be able to generate alpha, so to say. It's at a certain level yet, and as you pointed out, from machine learning to deep learning, that processing power is very crucial, and that is growing at a faster pace. Whereas for the human brain, we are at a certain level. I mean, there is a kind of a cap to how fast we can process information. So that's where the edge of the machines come from. And I mean, that also kind of brings me to my next topic, basically. This whole tech proliferation is also creating new asset classes. And I think Thailand is the perfect platform to have that conversation, because when I did the panel at SET event last month, there was a conversation around digital assets and tokenization. So, Kunjasida, how about new asset classes being created?
Right. So I would mention two things. The first one is what I recently have an experiment. It's called crowdsourcing-based investor decisions on the advisory space. So before this, 20 years ago, normally investors, they will make decisions based on research. When they go to physical financial institutions, brokers, become clients and read the research, find the RM and make decisions, right? But today, it changed. Since the time sharing changed, Thai people spend like hours on internet. So in the internet, it's like the virtual world of the what so-called lead opinion. Wow. In physical world, lead opinion is set of people. But in virtual world, there are totally different lead of opinion world. Okay. For example, even in Thailand, there are one lead opinion in Thailand called Longthun Man. I know him personally, but he's not no one in the mass public know who he is, but he's a very popular lead opinion. So crowdsourcing means on the advisory space, they start having this online lead opinion, constructing portfolio recommendation to clients, and it's attract a lot of investors.
Wow, so something like social
right.
influencers.
For my company, we just launched a robo-advisory model from the lead opinion in Thailand, work together with the company and invest in Kunwin mutual funds. And it's turned out very well. Thousands of investors want to buy these crowdsourcing advisories.
If you guys pay a little bit more attention, so machines have higher processing power, but we are trying to use everyone's intelligence and knowledge and processing power via the social media platform here in case of investing.
Right.
That is, I mean, that's really cool actually.
Yes, and actually it's also happened on the States or European sides in different ways also. So I think even AI is rising, but like Jack Ma said, what we have is hard. Humans have heart and have like kind of qualitative value. That's why these lead opinions by human still very valuable.
It's very interesting to see the millennial talk the other language. That's great. I think how about the tokenization discussion?
Right. And another thing that's coming soon and maybe faster than everyone thinking about is STO. Securities token offerings. Since I work with SEC as a working group committees with SEC on the digital sides, from time to time they have a lot of demands of tokenizing. The STO concept is mean every asset, whether it's financial assets, capital market assets, stock funds, bond debentures, properties, condo, this place can tokenizing and sales through blockchain. So more and more of this trend is happening around. So I think, for example, in some country, they start having stocks to trade on the blockchain base without the intermediaries. So I think this trend might happen one day also.
Millennial is back on the agenda.
That's right.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
We talk about the modernization, the tokenization, right? But as modern as Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, when you look back at the graph of Bitcoin price 2 years ago, when there was a bubble, you'll be surprised to know that it's actually pure human psychology. There's nothing about technology in there. It's pure human psychology. When someone put Bitcoin graph with the tulip mania graph, same thing. So, 400 years past, we still have the same problem with high psychology that people just speculate on something, without fundamental value.
I'm with you, and let's discuss that again. But Nat, on the tokenization topic, what are the benefits? Why do you need stocks are tokens already, right? Why do you need tokenization?
I think, when you look at stocks, it's still very hard for you to open an account to trade. It takes several days to do settlement, and there's a lot of regulatory requirements for you to trade traditional assets like stocks. And millennials, sometimes they don't want to go through all these hoops. They want everything to be 100% digital. So you can trade security tokens by just using your digital wallet, right, to get access to these tokens. And I think it's not just the ease of access part, but also the fact that now when you tokenize real estate or collectibles or arts, you essentially can break it down to very small fractions. So that allows millennials with not much wealth to practically have an alternative assets to invest in. And not just that, but they can also sell these tokens to other people easily as well. So the notion of being able to access it easily through 100% digital channel through your phones and cryptocurrency wallet, and the ease of the ability to buy in fractional shares and the ability to sell it to other people easily, these things makes it very attractive.
That is a very strong millennial attack, by the way. And the reason I say that is bulk of the argument that I hear from all the banks that I cover on why they're not going full tech and why robo-advisory won't pick it up is because actually millennials are all talk, but they don't really have all that much money. And now what we are doing is, because they don't have much money, we are actually designing asset classes which help them break down the existing assets into more liquid forms and then let them invest. Now, hold on. It is very worrying for me. And I'm sure Kun Bin will understand why it is worrying for me. You have a very illiquid asset, and you are generating securities. I'm from the Lehman era, guys, and I hear securitization, and it gives me a little bit of a shiver. Kun Bin, and we heard from Kun Parli as well, right? Like, it's important to balance the risks, and, we are going fast, but I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, like I said, being old school fund managers, we cannot do valuation of Bitcoin. Period. There's no way we can value it. So the price of Bitcoin is based on purely speculation. And that's why I said that although it's very modern, kind of currency, but when people trade on it, it's not investment, it's pure trading, it's pure speculation. So we have to be careful on that. I always advise people that you cannot really do pure fundamental valuation of Bitcoin. You have to be careful on trading those and make sure that you don't put too much money on that. It might be part of your investment, but not the whole thing.
So, that is exactly the advice that we've seen through cycles, right? If anything that you really don't understand the fundamentals of, it is not very easy to, and from a regulator's lens as well, you don't want to have your household savings into something that you can't really value. But even before we get there, I think what I want to hear from you, Nat, is what are the challenges? Are we really there from a technology basis? Are we ready for tokenization?
I think not yet. There are a few hurdles that security tokens need to go through. And the first thing is the regulatory part, because securities law is different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, right? So this regulation prohibits the ability for investors to freely trade the tokens. So the attractiveness of token declines a lot because of that. So we kind of need regulators to come together and think about the standardized way to regulate security tokens so that we can trade these tokens freely, both domestically and also internationally. Okay. And the second point is also the technology part. Even though cryptocurrency has been around for 10 years, security token is still very new. So we are creating a trading system from scratch, whether it is broker-dealer system, custodian, the exchange platform. So all of this is still in development, and it's not ready yet. But what's interesting about cryptocurrency space is that you get a top cream of the engineers of the world and the data scientists of the world working in this space. So when you have really smart people come together to do something in crypto, I think the pace of development will be really, really fast.
That's very interesting. Since we're discussing different investment ideas, and we have Kun Bin on the panel, can you please share, is there any other way to play these themes or, the whole advancement in technology, or what investments are you looking at now?
At Principal, we have a couple of subsidiaries that they did try using machine to select stocks. One of that is Origin, which is under Principal Group. They do global small cap stock, and they only use 4 people. So how can they cover 6,000 stocks in the universe with 4 people? Basically, just use machine. So they use machine to screen all those 6,000 out down to maybe 200 stocks, and then they work from there. Another subsidiary is our joint venture between Principal and China Construction Bank in Beijing. Again, they are data scientists. They are actually rocket science for me. So they use machine to screen A-share stocks based on factors. So they try this and that factor, which one worked, and it seemed to be working. So the two, at least 2 teams in my group, they did try. Seems to be working quite well. They cannot beat the index every year, but they beat the index in the longer run. We did try take that to Thai stocks, we found that it doesn't work yet. The reason is because we tend to work on the large cap universe, which is about 100 stocks. And then the machine needs a bigger size, big sample size to pick the stocks. Like you want to pick the best stock in this sector, but we only have one stock in some sector, like AOT as an airport. So when you have a small sample size, it doesn't work, right? So we did try that, not working for Thailand yet.
But what has been your best investment this year then? What's running the most?
What's running?
Yeah, what is your...
Oh, it turned out to be REITs. And okay, just to connect my old world of real estate to the new world of data, you will be surprised to know that our top pick in real estate is actually data centers. Because the growth of data demand more data centers, and why don't we invest in there? We get like 6% yield from data center in Singapore, in Australia, in Europe. My second top pick is logistics. Again, it grows from e-commerce. The more you buy things online, the more you need logistics centers there. The third sector is indirectly related, which is office. Again, office seems to be boring segment in real estate. But we saw more demand from technology companies and co-working space from startups. They rent office more. So office is doing well in Bangkok, in Singapore, in other parts of the world. So yeah, I still benefit from the tech development from real estate.
One-up. This is the one-up of the traditionals over the millennials. You create new asset classes, you do crypto, you do fancy. He will find a way to make money out of that too without doing crypto.
So the more you use blockchain, the more I use data centers. Yes.
That's really interesting.
And we work IPO also. Very interesting.
Not recommended.
Yeah. Okay, so the other interesting ideas that we have found out in our research is the new investment areas that people are looking at. People are actually trading comic books. They are investing in wine. They're investing in green tea. And this is not like green tea futures. This is like rare green tea. So it's really interesting like how things are. I think there's a point when we'll start trading on people, you know, like Maggie will become a stock. So as we move on, I think it's time to address the elephant in the room, which is, do you think tech will replace, or robos will replace fund managers? It is a serious topic, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of heat on that. Can I just poll the audience? Everyone's career is at stake, guys, so time to bring out the phones and exercise your votes. Do you think robo-advisory will increase adoption within your clients right now? Can you please bring up the poll? Thanks. So, I mean, there is little doubt that technical analysis is becoming really important, but like, yeah, oh wow. Robo-advisory will find higher adoption with clients in the next 5 to 10 years. Let's bring out the next question as well. I think the response is pretty clear on this one. Do you think AI will provide competitive advantage? The next question. Do you think AI will be a key competitive advantage or threat for your career in the fund management industry? Kunjat, time to be put on the spot now.
All right.
You are the biggest supporter of robo-advisory that I have on my panel. Do you think
I quit fund manager jobs to run robo-advisory.
Yes, so do you think robo-advisory will replace human beings?
Answer to your questions, my personal view on this is similar to when Jack Ma debated with Elon Musk last week. So when I was fund manager, I'm a bottom-up fund manager, which I value on qualitative data more than quantitative. Like the information get from the company visits with the major shareholders or suppliers. So on my personal investment right now, I eligible to invest in stock since I'm not fund manager anymore. I still not using AI at all. And I still use my, what I believe is a bottom-up deep dive style. So I believe that for the stock picking in the long term, whether Google can beat Korean guy on Go Chase, but in the fund manager world, human will beat AI.
Oh my God, we have converted the millennial. We have converted.
But
so
the people, fund manager in the next era with capability of fine-tuning machine learning, as Kun Win say, will have a big edge. Some of my ex-colleagues start learning Python. You can use Bloomberg new functions, Python and Jupyter. So yes. I'm doing my work, right? Okay, Python and Jupyter, do it. And it will create an edge for using this AI machine learning as part of investment decisions.
So what I'm getting is we are more in the hybrid zone where, fund managers will use robo-advisors to come up with, it'll be basically a complementing.
Anyway, sorry, very short here. That's my answer about fund managers. Another answer is about the retail investors. I believe that robo-advisory will dominate the market. But from what I run the companies with around 10,000 clients, the hybrid model will be the end game of this, where the low ticket size is comfortable to do pure robo-advisor. That means advisoring without human at all from end to end. But for the high ticket money, for example, $30,000 and above, let's say, still need human touch as part of the journey.
Did you guys talk before you came here? Because
no,
we had the exact same conversation.
Right.
So Kun Win, in this setup, what do you think are the skills that fund managers need now?
On the surface, you might think there are two camps, right? Fundamentalists and quant guys. But I would say that going forward is more the middle ground. People like me, we have to know how to use machine, how to use automation to help us pick stocks, because we want to do things faster and more efficient. So like Kun just said, that you might need to learn some skills to help you doing that. And I think the most difficult question for machine to beat human is the psychology, as I said. How could a machine drive up the price of Bitcoin? That's human. How could you have 1/3 of the bonds in the world to be negative yield? That's human, it's not machine. So you still need human to do some of this very deep thinking. Machines will help you do something faster, but may not replace everything.
And what are the skills that you would recommend that,
Use Bloomberg.
Please note, guys, use Bloomberg. Thank you for the support. But, in terms of, do you think it should be more quant skills? Do you think they need, more presentation skills, soft skills? What is the element that will be most handy? Because if the processing is going to the machines, then...
When I say use Bloomberg, I mean that the next gen fund managers, you need to know how to use IT or automation to help you do the work. You need to be the one who code, the software, the program. You just need to know how to use it, right? So I think that's a key thing that you need to develop skills on. Of course, the soft skills that we still need is still there. I still have to meet my clients. I still need to present to my clients. I still need to have a good human touch, a good way to talk to my clients. So my advice to the young generation is that you can't be a pure computer geek without being a good people person. Yeah.
So be people, don't be machines. Be people is the message, right? Nat.
Yeah, I have one quick point on that. When you said that the market is still driven by psychology, I think there's a role for technology to play on that part, especially you can use machine learning or deep learning to kind of do sentiment analysis and make trades based on that. So there's a lot of value that can be captured by
I
using
have to
technology.
agree with that. So there are surveys that tell you that machines can actually predict your behavior better than you know yourself. So psychology, well, we are not so sure. But purely in terms of robots replacing, or what are the new skill sets that are required to adapt in this environment, what do you think?
I do think that from what I've observed over my portfolio companies or over the VC space, a lot of people that these companies are hiring have to be multidisciplinary, meaning that they can no longer just have finance degree or economics degree, but a lot of times these companies are looking for people who both have computer science degree and also business degree as well. So we're seeing universities in the US producing graduates who have double degrees in computer science plus something else, because you can no longer predict, like do well in fund managing space with just one disciplinary.
Thank you for saying that. I did my engineering and then I did my MBA, and I got beaten down right, left, and center for not respecting my engineering degree. So we need both. Please, guys, take note. I think that is a very interesting panel. Thank you so much. We've actually run out of time. Can we just do one last poll quickly? I want to know from the audience, do you think you are ready or being prepared enough for this new paradigm of investing? How comfortable do you feel? And have these guys scared you enough? Or I want to see how the result turns out. Well, you did a good job.
I'm not ready as well.
I think just acknowledging that you're not ready and working towards it is half the problem solved already, right? And I mean, just to summarize, one of the key messages that I took away from the panel today is that maybe robots will replace humans, maybe they won't. But the one thing that I get for certain is that humans who are fund managers, who are not using machines, will definitely get replaced by those who are. Thank you for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for spending your time with us today.
My name is Julia from Thai team. On behalf of Bloomberg, we would like to thank you all of you for joining us today. And we would like to request you to help fill your feedback in the Pigeonhole website. And after you're done, please join us for the networking drink on the opposite side. And last but not least, on the way out, please don't forget to pick up small gift from us. ขอบคุณค่ะ and we hope you see you again in the next event. Thank you.